So we are looking to try to basically right now we have like a little window of opportunity to kind of do online classes until Labor Day. Do I see much changing with the virus until Labor Day? No, I don't. Do online learning. This is not a permanent solution. This is temporary till the pandemic calms down. That's what people need to understand. This is not the end game. This is temporary. We take care of it now. We social distance. We only have essential workers out there. We do what we can to keep people from crowding in spaces. Wear your mask out in public. We could get the numbers down. And then once vaccine or treatment's out by 2021, hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
I think that's a great point. Also, you talk about the word temporary. You know what else is temporary? Opening up the schools. As soon as you open up these schools, they're going to be a petri dish for infection. We've already seen this play out in other countries. I know Americans don't like to compare themselves to other countries, but we probably should in a lot of cases, and this is one of those examples. There are countries such as South Korea. I know Israel was a big one that tried this, and it utterly failed abysmally and very rapidly with unholy speed.
And they did take all the precautions.
And they took all
the precautions, social distance, dividers. If a flu, and I've been in a classroom where someone has a flu or strep throat, that spreads pretty easily. The coronavirus spreads rapidly. Like, I can imagine how quickly our school or his school or any school, once one person's COVID positive, and I know people are going to be wearing a mask, but kids that are young enough won't have to wear a mask. And people do need to take their mask off to eat lunch. We already talked about that before in another podcast. But yeah, people will take off their mask to eat. You got to take off your mask to blow your nose. We get a lot of allergies here in the wintertime and springtime and fall time for Texas. And you're going to have to take off your mask just to blow your nose. Maybe not because you're sick of COVID, it's because you have allergies. Now, if you're taking off your mask, you're exposing yourself. Now, if you are sick, those particles are going everywhere. That tissue doesn't catch everything. Mm-hmm. So it really, we're getting set up for failure.
Yeah.
It's just a scientific
reality.
Yeah. And it's a science experiment they're trying to do. They're trying to see if they can actually make us go in person.
But we've already done the scientific experiment. We did it in these other countries and it failed. And these countries, mind you, they had a better testing infrastructure. They had less infectivity in their communities, and they still couldn't do it. What makes anybody with a brain think that we even need to do this experiment again? We don't. We already know what's going to happen. So when we talk about temporary, what's temporary is opening these schools back, because once you do, it's going to unravel with unholy speed. It's going to be a disaster. And just like the bars and the restaurants, it's going to lead to huge spikes. The hospitals will be overwhelmed. And how good is that going to be for the economy? Not too good.
No, it's not. And really, it's going to cause a ripple effect. And really, we're trying to bring the economy up, but if we try too soon before we get the virus under control, we're just prolonging this whole pandemic.
One step forward, two steps back. And what we're doing, we're essentially putting the cart before the horse. We're putting the economy before the science. We've got to get the virus under control first before we have any chance of getting the economy back. That's just the sequence of it. One follows logically from the other. Even if we just had everything like herd immunity type of ideology, we're still going to have low consumer confidence with a raging pandemic. We've got to get it under control. We've got to get a handle on it. We've got to listen to our scientists and our medical experts instead of politicians. And that's the only way we're going to get a handle on this. And this is just one aspect of that. We are trying to get these schools open so that the companies can have a subsidized daycare. And that is why we're in the predicament we're in, because we're prioritizing the economy first, yet your economy is never going to run and function like it did, business as usual, unless you get a handle on this virus.
Yeah, putting bodies back into a school building right now is just so counterproductive. It is so obvious. And if people don't see that, they're obviously, I don't know, they're not even on the right planet right now.
Yeah, and I can't even believe this is even a subject of debate. It's sort of like with climate change or evolution, it becomes this quote debate. And the media does a great job of normalizing two unequal sides of a debate, two false equivalencies. Like they'll have on a climate science expert, and then on the other side, it's this radical person paid off by Exxon, and it's supposed to be like this equal debate. This is similar. We have all the science, we have the common sense, but we're going by politics and fringe.
And let me remind you, okay, so Abbott said he's not going to make people wear masks. Well, guess what? He mandated a law to make masks mandatory in Texas. Now you have President Trump going on TV encouraging people to wear a mask. I think he sent a tweet, and we saw like on TV him wearing a mask. Now they're seeing the reality of things, and it's like, why do we have to get to that point? Why couldn't we just do that at the beginning?
Right. And Ben Franklin, he said something that's so pertinent to our time right now and with this situation. He said, experience keeps a dear school, but a fool will learn in no other. In other words, we have to just see it for ourselves, even though it's such common sense. Another quote from Ben Franklin was that the wise learn from their mistakes, but the wisest learn from others' mistakes. And we just simply don't have that wisdom here. We seem to always have to react to, we have to see it for ourselves, even though it's so obvious what the outcome will be. And that is one of the problems with our country and our history is we've always been reactive, not proactive. The things always have to get worse before they get better. And I think that's what Trump even said.
Yeah, and the thing too is you got to see things out far ahead. You can't just look at something in front of you and just go by that. You got to look way far ahead in the future. You got to look at what's the consequences of me doing this? What's the benefit to me doing that? If I do this here, what down the road, what's going to happen? People don't look that way. They just look at what's going to happen right now. You know, what's the future going to be?
Yeah, and
what's 2021 going to be? What's 2022 going to be?
Right. And I think that's part of our culture. It's part of a capitalist culture of we go by the quarter earnings. We don't look at the environmental implications. We don't look at long-term. We would rather just see growth. So they would prefer you got to say a C last time and get a B this time versus having an A and then an A minus the next time. So we have that kind of a culture where we always want to see here and now the growth. We don't define things as good or bad. It's always very short-sighted.
Yeah, and you know, there's a long road ahead of us, and I'm really, you know, hopefully we don't lose more lives over stubborn politics that puts people in the school buildings when they don't need to be, because all of us being in there, it's insane.
I guess just to wrap up, I would give teachers out there this one final appeal. I know this is a terrible situation. Some of you have to choose between your livelihood and your life, but I just want you to think about this. Is it worth your life? Is it worth the life of someone you love? Think about what they are doing. It should make you very angry. We should say no to this. And I know there's a lot at stake as far as finances, but you're college educated. There are going to be jobs. And trust me, once this thing opens up again, it's going to fall apart with unholy speed, and you will be on the right side of history, and you're going to be the one that looks really smart. And I don't think once the inevitable happens, any employer is going to look at you and say that you made a bad decision by not wanting to go through with this. So my final appeal to everyone is to say, no, we're not going to take this. We're not going to be your lab rats. We're not going to be your sheep.
We want lives to be saved. There should not be any lives that should be lost because we are fully capable of doing online learning. There's no reason to sacrifice anyone's life over some convenience of childcare.
That's right. But it's going to take enough teachers to stand up. And that's what I'm doing. And I know I'm taking a risk with my job, but you know what? It's kind of like a bully. See, I have red hair, so they used to bully me. But what I learned in school was that if you stand up to the bully, it's going to give other people the courage to do the same.